In the heart of ancient China, where tradition was the air every daughter breathed, a legend was whispered on the wind. It was not a tale of emperors or gods, but of a girl whose name became a quiet thunder, echoing through the ages. Her name was Mulan, and her story is not one written in the cold ink of history books, but one etched into the soul of a nation, carried by the love of a father and the courage of his child. They say the magnolia flower, her namesake, blooms with a strength that belies its delicate form, a symbol of a spirit that refused to be confined by the walls of expectation. This is her memory, told not as a chronicle of war, but as the journey of a heart that chose its own path, a testament to a love so fierce it could move mountains and rewrite destiny itself. The world told her who she was meant to be, a reflection in a polished mirror, adorned in silk, her worth measured by the grace of her hands in a tea ceremony, her future confined to the walls of a home that was not yet hers. She was a daughter, taught that her greatest honor was to be a dutiful bride, her voice a soft murmur in a world of men's decrees. But within Mulan, there was a different kind of music, a rhythm that did not match the prescribed steps of tradition. She saw the world not just as a set of rules to be followed, but as a tapestry of love, family, and duty that she felt in her very bones. Her spirit was a wild river, flowing with a quiet intensity that the carefully constructed dams of custom could not entirely contain. She loved her family with a depth that was both her greatest vulnerability and her most profound strength, a love that would soon ask more of her than any tradition ever could. Then came the drums of war, a sound that shook the earth and rattled the soul of every family. The emperor's decree arrived, a scroll that carried the weight of a death sentence, demanding one man from every household to serve in the imperial army against the northern invaders. Her father, his body a map of old battles and the relentless march of time, answered the call with the unwavering honor of a soldier. But Mulan saw not a warrior. She saw a man whose strength was fading, whose love had been her shield her entire life. She saw his limp, the weary lines etched upon his face, and knew that the battlefield would be his final resting place. In that moment, a choice unfurled within her, sharp and clear as a shard of ice. It was a decision born not of rebellion, but of a love so profound it was willing to shatter every expectation, every rule, every tradition she had ever known. In the deep silence of the night, under the watchful gaze of the moon, Mulan made her silent vow. She traded her silk robes for the coarse, unyielding armor of a soldier. With a single decisive stroke of a blade, she severed her long hair, the symbol of her identity as a woman, letting it fall like a sacrifice to the floor. Each strand that dropped was a farewell to the daughter she was, and a step toward the soldier she had to become. She took her father's sword, its cold weight a heavy promise in her hands, and stole away into the darkness, leaving behind a home filled with sleeping loved ones who would wake to find their world irrevocably changed. Her heart pounded with a terror that was cold and sharp, but beneath the fear, a quiet fire had been ignited. It was the fire of purpose, a flame fed by a daughter's love that would guide her through the uncertain path that lay ahead. This was not an act of defiance for its own sake. It was an act of profound devotion, a trade of silence for sacrifice. The world of soldiers was a harsh and unforgiving landscape, a realm of sweat, steel, and unyielding masculinity. Here, Mulan became Ping, a boy among men, her true self buried beneath layers of armor and a carefully constructed facade. Every day was a test of her resolve. The grueling training pushed her body to its breaking point, her muscles screaming in protest, her spirit stretched thin. The fear of discovery was a constant shadow, a whisper in the back of her mind that threatened to undo everything. She learned to lower her voice, to walk with a different gait, to suppress the grace that was so intrinsically hers. Yet, in this crucible of hardship, something remarkable began to happen. The girl who had struggled to fit the mold of a perfect daughter found a different kind of strength, a resilience forged in the fires of adversity. She was no longer just pretending, she was becoming. The discipline of a soldier sharpened her mind, and the camaraderie, forged in shared struggle, began to fill the lonely corners of her heart. Her intelligence, once hidden behind polite smiles, became a strategic asset. Her keen observation, once used to navigate the complex world of family honor, now allowed her to see weaknesses in the enemy's formation. She was not the strongest soldier, nor the most fearsome, but she possessed a different kind of power. It was the power of a quiet mind, a courageous heart, and an unwavering will to protect those she fought alongside. Leadership was not a title she sought, but a mantle she earned through action. In a moment of crisis, when hope seemed lost and the shadow of defeat loomed large, it was her quick thinking, her audacious plan, that turned the tide. She used the mountain itself as a weapon, her knowledge of the terrain and the elements becoming more powerful than any sword. In that singular act of brilliance and bravery, she saved the army, her comrades, and in doing so, revealed a leader who had been there all along, hidden in plain sight. But the truth, like the sun, cannot be hidden forever. A wound, a moment of vulnerability, and the armor was stripped away, revealing the secret she had guarded so fiercely. The discovery was met not with understanding, but with betrayal and scorn. She had broken the highest law, deceived her comrades, and dishonored the army she had just saved. Abandoned and alone, left to face the biting cold of the mountain and the even colder sting of rejection, Mulan faced her darkest moment. The fire within her flickered, threatened by the overwhelming weight of failure and shame. She had sacrificed everything, only to be cast aside. Yet, as she looked at the distant smoke rising from the imperial city, she knew the threat was not over. Her duty was not finished. It was here, in this moment of utter desolation, that her true strength was forged. It was not the strength of a soldier or the honor of a man. It was the strength of Mulan, a woman who would not be defined by the world's judgment. With nothing but her own will to guide her, she rose. She journeyed to the capital, a lone figure against an empire in peril. She was no longer hiding, no longer pretending. She was simply herself, a warrior with a warning that no one would heed. It was her courage, stripped bare of all pretense, that shone brightest. She rallied the few who would listen, the comrades who had once turned their backs on her, but now saw the truth of her character. And together, they did what the entire imperial army could not. They fought not for the glory of the emperor or the laws of the land, but for the people, for their homes, for the future of China. In the heart of the palace, she faced the enemy leader, not with brute force, but with the same ingenuity and spirit that had defined her all along. She was a daughter, a soldier, a leader, and a savior, all at once. She proved that honor is not about who you are born as, but who you choose to be. When the dust settled and the victory was won, Mulan stood before the Emperor of China. He, the most powerful man in the land, bowed to her, a gesture that sent ripples through 1,000 years of tradition. He offered her a place of power, a position of honor within his court, a reward for her incredible service. But Mulan's journey had not been for glory or for status. It had been for family. She bowed in return, and with a heart full of gratitude, she asked for only one thing: to go home. She returned not as Ping the soldier, but as Mulan, the daughter who had walked through fire and emerged not burned but forged. Her return was quiet, her triumph personal. The greatest reward was not the emperor's favor, but the embrace of her father, an embrace that held all the love, pride, and understanding in the world. He did not see a dishonor, but a hero. He saw his child, who had offered the greatest sacrifice of all, not for a law or a decree, but for love. Her story became a soft but powerful echo, a legend whispered from mother to daughter for generations. It is a reminder that the most rigid traditions can be bent by a will strong enough, that the highest walls can be scaled by a heart brave enough. Mulan's courage was not the absence of fear, it was the decision to act in spite of it. Her sacrifice was not a loss of self, but the ultimate expression of it. Her honor was not given to her, but earned through her choices. And her leadership was not about command, but about inspiration. Her legacy lives on, a quiet fire in the soul of every person who has ever been told they are not enough, who has been confined by the expectations of others. Mulan's story is the story of choosing to become your own permission, of discovering that the greatest strength you will ever possess is the unwavering courage to be true to your own heart. She was the magnolia flower that bloomed in the snow, a warrior who became her own hero, and a daughter whose love became a legend.